Hi, this is Rebecca, over 60 and babyboomster.com. And I know it's been a while since I've done a video, and I had a really good reason why. I was one of those people that was displaced in the Los Angeles fires. I lived in Altadena, which was hit unbelievable. I mean, it's just like Armageddon happened there. We had over 9,000 houses that burned. And even though my house didn't actually burn, the house next to it, which is owned by my friend from high school, she owned the whole property. I was in an ADU. Her house burned to the ground. Ours was singed and damaged, and the windows blew out, and right now it's completely unlivable. So I had to relocate to my daughter's house, which actually turned out to be really convenient for me because she just had a baby, and I'm kind of tapped to be the nanny for the baby when she goes back to work. So before, I was going to have to drive back and forth, and it was a little bit of a long distance. But luckily, she has an ADU that I can stay in, which is an additional dwelling unit. It's actually another name for a guest house. And so I'm able to live there, and I feel really lucky about that. But I also kind of have a little bit of survivor guilt in a way, because my roommate who was living with me, she's staying with a friend, and she has to leave at the end of the month because he's got somebody coming in from town, and he didn't really plan on having an extra roommate. And so she doesn't really know what to do. And then my friend, who lost her home completely, lost everything. And so it's a really horrible thing to go through. And I know people go through this all the time with hurricanes and floods and, whatever else nature decides to do to us. I'm waiting for the locusts to show up. I kind of laugh about it, but it's not really funny at all. It's tragic. I mean, so many people had to leave everything. They didn't have anything left, and the whole neighborhood is just it's like a bomb hit it, really. I was there the other day because I was able to grab some things from there, but I decided to drive around the neighborhood, and it was like all these places that I used to go for walks and, hang out and go to do some business with, at different stores and the post office and, everything. It's just all gone. And it's a horrible feeling. And I know that there's a lot of people there that do have survivor guilt in a way. I mean, our house is unlivable right now. It's disgusting. Like, if you walk in there, for one thing, the power's been off for a month, and everything in the refrigerator is just rotting and stinks, and there's soot all over the place. It's very toxic, which means that it needs a complete cleanup. And who knows, when it's really going to be livable again, because not only is the house unlivable, but the area just has this toxic soot that has asbestos and lead and who knows what else in it. It's not a place for pets or anything like that. And I know my roommate thinks that she can go in there and clean the whole place out and live there right away, but she has a cat, and if the cat goes outside, it's going to be in all this dust and stuff. And so we have to wait until the city comes in. It's sort of a two-step process where the city has to come in and take away all the hazardous stuff first, and then they come back at some point and they take away all the topsoil, like about a foot of the topsoil, and then hopefully, after doing some ground testing and everything, then, they might be able to repair the house and go back in it. But right now it's awful. Even when I went to take some of my clothes out and some items, they stank of fire, and you have to wash them a couple of times before you can wear them. So as you can imagine, it's been difficult for me to kind of get back into the groove, but I am slowly doing it. And I'm very grateful that I have a nice place to live, and I'm with my family and I'm taken care of. But I know that there's people that are still, homeless, basically. There were people that were at the convention center in Pasadena, and after a month, they told them all of a sudden, well, you got to be out by Friday. And these people didn't have any place to go. So it's difficult in Los Angeles because the rents are just insane, they probably were living in their house for decades and not paying a whole lot. And then all of a sudden you go out and, the rents are like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month or more, and they can't handle it. And even though the city has been, or actually the state and the federal government have been good about taking care of us, FEMA was out there and they were working really, really hard. And I really was kind of disgusted to hear that, a certain person wanted to get rid of FEMA because they come through in all sorts of disasters, and it doesn't matter what political party you're part of. They help you out. And so they've given people some money, and people that had insurance have been getting some money. But to rebuild that whole community is just going to be a nightmare. And the same thing with the Pacific Palisades. Even though a lot of the people that live in the Palisades are very affluent, there's still a lot of working people that live in and around there that were affected and lost their jobs, and it's just terrible. And the thing about Altadena that is really unique is that it wasn't just a city. It was a really special kind of place where a long time ago, like in the 1880s when it was settled, a lot of Black families especially weren't allowed to live in Pasadena and other areas. And so they migrated into Altadena, which was really open, and they allowed a lot of different ethnicities to move in there. And so it's been a Black community for a long time, and there were a lot of, actually a really mixed community. But especially like the Black community was really settled there, and there were a lot of leaders and people that came out of that community that lived there, and they had houses there for decades and decades, and 100 years, some of them. So it's a sad situation, but it happens to people for a lot of different reasons. It may not be a fire. It could be a hurricane, a tornado, or whatever, or it just could be that you're displaced for some other reason. It could be that the people that own the house that you're living in all of a sudden decide to sell it, or who knows, and so the feeling of it, I can really understand. And if you have ever gone through something like that, I would love to know about that and find out your thoughts about that, because it's a hard thing, especially when you're older. Okay, I'm 71 and I'm going through this. I've moved 29 times in my life. I always said 28, but now it's 29. And that's a lot of times to move. Some people, especially like a lot of these people that lived in my neighborhood, have lived there forever. They've only lived in this one house. So when they lose everything, it's super difficult. For me, it's like, okay, I'm moving again. I become really adaptable to that sort of thing. And I'm grateful that I have that feeling of being adaptable to situations. I'm also an actor, so you have to be adaptable to all sorts of things like rejection and whatever. I think it's made me stronger in that way, but that's why I guess I can just kind of feel like, okay, it's another thing that happened in my life. I've had a lot of crazy things happen in my life, but this one takes the cake. This is something, it just really never expected it to happen to me. And, even when we were sitting there and we saw the fire on the hill, I was thinking, I'm several miles way down the hill. I'm not even on the hill. I'm like way down into the community. It's not exactly on the flats, but it was definitely not on the hillside. And so we thought, it's not going to come down this far. This is crazy. This is a big city. This is Los Angeles. This can't happen. I can imagine maybe some of the houses that are just right in the foothills would be affected, but to go several miles down the hill and then all of a sudden the fire comes down there, and we were alerted at like 3:30 in the morning. It was a little scary to look at when I saw the fire in the hill, but then I thought, it's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden, we decided to go to sleep, and all of a sudden my roommate starts, yelling out like, hey, we got to get out of here. And thank goodness she was a night owl, because I was dead asleep and I did not hear an alert on my phone. And so I got up and I was already packed to go to a convention where I was going to spend like 5 nights in Long Beach, which was perfectly timed. So I was ready to go. So I just threw everything in my car. She had to go and wrangle her cat and finally got out of there. And I don't think she packed very much. And my friend next door really didn't pack very much either. In fact, she was going to take her trailer that she had been using to go all over the country. And at the last minute, because the winds were like 100 miles an hour, it was insane. I didn't want to drive in the wind like that. And she decided to leave the trailer, and of course the trailer burned up as well. So anyway, I hope that you never have to go through something like that, but if you have, I can totally feel what you went through. And it took me a long time. I mean, I was just like walking into walls and stuff, it just like, what the heck happened? I'm like, and I didn't even have it as bad as some of the other people where they lost everything. But, I can at least go back to my house and grab a few things, and then I have to spend a lot of time cleaning them off because they just absolutely stink and who knows what's on them. But, I left a lot of stuff at home, and I realized that, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't need and probably will end up having to throw away. I mean, I'm definitely going to have to throw away my mattress and probably everything on my bed, because that was right next to the window. And who knows, just I had a lot of stuff, and I'm really good at throwing things away normally, but because I was in a small space and staying in a room and doing a lot of Amazon reviews, I had a lot of stuff packed in my closet. And luckily I had the door closed to the closet, because that would have been even worse. So anyway, just wanted to let you know what I was up to and why I hadn't been posting, but I'm hoping to get back to my posting schedule soon. It may take me a little while to get up to speed, but I'm working on it. And anyway, if you like this video, please subscribe. That really helps me out in a lot of ways. If you want to help fire victims, there's a lot of ways you can help. A lot of people are sending clothes and a lot of junk, but really what they need is, they don't have any place to put all that stuff. So, donate to the Red Cross, donate to the World Central Kitchen. They've helped out like a tremendously. Find organizations that are really going to be helping people, and if you can, please donate. And leave a comment and click the notification bell and do all that, because that'll really help me out as well. And anyway, have a good one.